Let's continue on with some exercises. These have to do a little bit more with splitting, but even more with organizing and deciding how to split with the data organized. So I will copy in the next one. This one is to reorder the data frame first with the content of the second column, reverse alphabetical, and second with the content of the third column. So one thing that I could do here is to attach new frame, and then anytime that I wanted to see a column, let me try this and just make sure it's going to do what I think it's going to do, is I could use the column name to access it, or I could do the exact same thing and say, okay, relation was the second column. Oh, it's interesting that it orders it downwards. I'm actually not sure why it shows it that way. The first one is definitely showing it as a vector, and this one is showing it with the rows. If you know why it's doing that, I'd be glad to hear. Otherwise, accessing them seems to work pretty much the same way. Since I found it helpful to keep working with the rows and the columns so that I can remember where to use the front of the comma or back of the comma and so on, I'm going to do that for these exercises. So this one is going to be ordering the data frame. What if I say I want to order it and be able to save it and access it in that order? I'll put it into X and order first by the content of the second column in reverse alphabetical order. So one thing that I figured out as I was working on this, when there's two things that I was ordering by, I had to do them in the same order statement. I couldn't do them in two separate statements. So I'm going to do that. Second column, new frame, second column. All right, so then the other thing that I figured out is why to use rank is when it was in reverse alphabetical order that it seemed that order could not do the reverse of factors. Maybe that's the way to explain it. But that if you make it, or if I make it a rank, it makes it into a number that it can then do in reverse order. And then that can be in the same statement as one that's then in ascending order, the new frame, and then this is the third column. And then we'll close it. So let's see what X gives us. So this is giving us the locations of the rows. All right, to help me keep track of what X is, I'm going to do this as we did before and call this ordering index because it's actually an index. And then if I want to put this into a new frame, I'll call this new frame. I'll call this one new frame 2. According to this new order, need to create it. Let me think. So the ordering index is the rows, and we want all the columns. And then new frame dot 2. Why are we looking at all the cases and the row names are doubled? Let me look at new frame. Huh, I just looked back all the way, and these must be cases, and I just didn't notice that they've numbered, that R has numbered the rows for use within R, so that's why it just looks like it's doubled up. But in any case, this was reordering it. And continuing on working with this data frame is we'll take the new saved data frame and save it into a file. Again, mine's in a different location than this, so that you can easily open it in spreadsheet software. So this is going to be write. I've been using write.table, so I'll keep doing that. And looking at the arguments that I'll need is new frame 2, file. The default, I'll keep it. I'll change the quote. I'll change the sep. I'll use end of line. And I'll use row names equals false because I do not want them to take away the row names. Trying to think of how to explain row names equals true. So these are not my data. So let's see if that works like I think it should. So new frame dot 2 and file equals, and this is where it should go. I'll change this to how I want it to. Oops. Want port R, and then I'll give it today's date, and then the rest of it will be the same. So then I decided that I would use quote equals false, and actually when I was working with this I figured out what the quote did. The default is true, so I'm going to show what happens with this true since I forgot to put that in and saw what happened. And since I read it out as tab separated, I'm going to read it back in as tab separated, and row names equals false. Let's try this. No errors. So I'm going to come, did I put it into output files? Oh, I should have put it into my own folder. I'm going to change that and just make it easy to find. And I'll clean up that other one later. Alright, so I'll run this again. So this is what I realized, that the quotes equals true, which is the default, that it puts all the factors in quotes when it writes it, and it appears to be the same for the headers. So I'm going to come in here. I don't actually want that in my file, so I'm going to change the quote to true, run it again. It goes into the same file name, and open it up again, and there it cleaned all that up, and this is more how I would expect it to be. Looks like they've been shifted over, so actually I should look at this in Excel to see if the tab separated, it lets me open it into an Excel spreadsheet like I would expect to be able to. I'm going to come down here and open up Excel, and so since it's a text.txt file, I have to go through all the steps. Yes, it is tab separated, so if I'd separated it another way, it still would be possible to be opened in a spreadsheet. And I will finish, and there it is. The next exercise has us create another table. So some of this will be similar, and then I'll move on to some that's a little bit different. So this has given us the data. It's not yet in a table or in a data frame, and we need to create this following data frame called EPP, English Personal Pronouns. So I'm going to have 3 columns. This is going to be the data in each column. So I'm going to take what I learned last time and say that pronoun is going to take I, you, he, she, it, we, you, and they. I'll run that. Okay, so far so good. These are all characters. Person, okay, these should go in just as numbers. I wonder if I want them to be factors, but for right now I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to put them into there. And last one is going to be number, so singular, plural. And I probably will want these to be factors, but again, I'm not going to worry about that for now. Actually, I'll probably make them factors when I put them into the data frame. Well, and one more. Must have hit something wrong. There we go. Okay, so we want this to go into a data frame that we call EPP. So we use the function data frame, and then should just list out each of the variables, and then the variables should become the column names. So, same thing that we had, only we have row numbers, and that one is done.